On today's episode of Watch JR Go, we are in the truck headed to Winfield, Kansas for the K&O Steam and Gas Engine Show and for ice cream. What is going on, guys? I am Watch JR Go and it's too early for this, but I guess we're here. And this is our 1994 Dairy Queen ice cream machine. And today, we're gonna do a full setup for you guys and a walkthrough because it's been completely rebuilt since the last time we've seen it. The trailer's been completely rebuilt since the last time you guys saw this thing. So let's walk around and take a look at the updates. This originally was built with all corrugated metal, and one of the issues was when the engines were running, the corrugated metal would kind of sit here and vibrate. So they redid it with, this is basically sign panel that we would usually just print on with a flatbed printer. And now it has stainless surrounds on it, and it picks up every point it can, so there's no more vibration, which is really cool. And the last time you guys saw the ice cream machine, it ran on gas and diesel. It still runs on diesel, of course, because it has a diesel engine on there, but Dad converted the 4-cylinder Continental over to propane over the last year, put a mixer on it instead of a carburetor, and now we have propane tanks to run the thing, and it runs super clean. Now, of course, the diesel tank got painted yellow, so we know E85 goes in it instead of diesel. But it's got a really cool setup here with the propane line coming down to its regulator and down the trailer, where we used to have a fuel pump, like a car fuel pump, and all that fun stuff that ran back to the machine itself. So the doors just go together like that. They've got some nuts and bolts that's on conduit supports, and those conduit supports just have crushed ends to turn them into door props. And it's sort of hard to... Nope. Down? I can go wherever, I got it.
Good.
Tell me.
It's good.
Somebody put this bench right where it needed to be a ladder. There you go, the whole side opens up just that quickly. A couple of seconds there. And here, you want this one? You got a bolt?
Bolt. And the bolt.
It's a top bolt in the corner, came all the way out.
There you go.
Hanging there.
This is actually just a car trailer, and when I was about 5, we built this thing out in the driveway. We just added all this 1x1 square tubing, stood it up, and put a roof on a car trailer, and then it had flip open sides. So we're gonna take you guys on a quick tour of the ice cream machine that's been converted to run on all engines. So it's all rebuilt, because we've done a tour of this thing back in the day.
Yeah, we did a tour I think we did a tour while we were rebuilding the engine or before?
Now, we started recording and then never did it.
Okay, so we never finished it. By the way, where do I get one of those hats that has Holly all over it?
From Holly?
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool hat.
Holly needs to get me one of them. Hey, by the way, there's no Holly high performance on this engine either.
I know, because it had a Holly fuel pump, didn't it? The click-clack?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, now it has propane.
Now it's on propane.
Yeah, so.
This is the Continental Y69, so it's a 69 cubic inch engine. This engine was originally a power plant, if you will. It had a clutch mounted on the back right here with a twin disc clutch to run like a combine. Had a radiator sitting right here. The fan blade was right here, and it already was governed when I got it, so it was set up just to run, like I say, a combine at a steady state operation. I don't know where it came from. I got it out of the junk. A friend of mine bought it for the carburetor, and then he threw the engine in his iron pile, and I backed up to the shop one day, and I said, hey, what's that engine sitting there for? And he said, well, I bought it for the carburetor. The rest is going to the iron. I said, I think that'll fit in my ice cream machine. He said, well, back your truck up, and you can have it. So the rest is history. We brought it home. Put it in here. I put some car mounts here from O'Reilly's that are holding the engine up. They're out of a, I think they were just some we got out of their catalog. And this angle, or this channel iron, originally was welded on right here, where those weld marks were. And I carefully cut them off, moved it back, and just moved the angle back so it fit my engine placement. The engine, I never did anything to it, but put it in here, and it wouldn't start. And I'd found out when they took the wire off the starter, they had put a wrench on it and just spun the whole bolt coming out of the starter, and it was a starter where it had a big, heavy, 1/4 inch wide by about 16 inch thick copper winding in it, and it twisted the end right off it when the bolt spun. So, you know, I was in a hurry to make it run. It was sitting on the tailgate of my truck. I wanted to know if it worked or not. So I just took the starter apart and reached in there and pulled off one winding off of the coil, pulled it back out, took my torch, unsoldered the broken off piece, laid it back in, soldered it back in place, cut it, and it's still on it to this day. I mean, it ran, and I started the engine up with some gasoline shooting in the carburetor. It ran, so I called the guy back and I said, hey, what do I got to do to get the original carburetor back? And he said, well, I need this carburetor. If you'll find me this carburetor for this antique Cushman engine, I'll give you the carburetor for your engine. And the very next steam engine show I went to, I was walking up, the carburetor was sitting on the table for like $10. So I bought it, traded it out, put the carburetor back on here, and then this engine's ran for, well, since 1992.
Yep.
With no issues. Well, it was getting pretty bad. Once we converted it over to propane because, well, the muffler, the exhaust is right here below the engine, right below the deck.
Yeah, Nissan muffler.
And well, when you're sitting here serving ice cream, smelling a rich engine that I couldn't ever get to quit stinking, I just decided I'd convert it to propane because it's sweeter smell when you're sitting here serving ice cream. I bought a street sweeper, or I traded for a street sweeper that had this exact same engine in it on propane. And Jared junked the thing out for me and kept the engine. But the carburetor bolted right on. This linkage even fit right up. I made this little mount right here to mount the vaporizer regulator both. This is hot water circulating through it. And this is liquid fuel coming in right here. And that's my fuel solenoid we turn on with the emergency stop over there, and this is just vapor coming to the carburetor. So anyways, I put all that on it, and boy, it started just fine when it was cold, but if it was hot, you could never restart it. Well, I did some research, and I'm sure the viewers will be able to tell you that a propane engine has to have hot spark, very hot spark, and good compression, where a much higher compression to start a hot engine than you would on gasoline, because gasoline's so much more easily ignitable.
Yeah.
So, well, I checked, I had low compression, so we decided, okay, it's time to tear it apart. So we tore the engine completely apart and started ordering parts, and it took about 6 months to get the parts for this Continental Y69. So if you're looking for parts, oh well, we've learned a lot about where to get Y69 Continental parts. Anyways, the rod bearings in this has 2 left rod bearings and 2 right rod bearings. And the bolts are off center based on alignment of the pistons with the crankshaft. The later model engines used the same bearings on all 4 rod bearings. This one has 2, like I say, 2 different sets. So every time I ordered them, I'd get a box of lefts and a box of rights, and you dump them out on the table and they're all rights. They couldn't figure that out. So finally I bought new old stock ones from a guy in Canada, and by golly, they worked. So it's got all brand new valve guides, all brand new valves, all brand new bearings, new thrust bearings, all new seals. And today it starts right up. So to start it up, all you do is come around here after somebody turns on the propane up front. We come around here. This is just a emergency stop button I had from an old used emergency stop. When you turn that on, this light comes on to tell you that the power's on. You can't really see it right now.
Oh yeah, you can see it there.
And then you push this up to start it. While it's running, it's got a generator on the back. That's an old Fairbanks in Wichita, Kansas. Had a swap meet, and I put that on the back of it so I'd have power to run my fan, my lights, and my refrigerator.
Yeah, it's a 220 generator.
I think it is a 220, yeah 220 generator.
And honestly, we've only had to use it like twice, right?
Well, I use it.
Usually we're on shore power.
So it produces power to here.
Yep.
So this is the generator power, and this is purchase power from a plug-in. So if the power goes down, we can start this thing up and run it in the middle of a field just by moving this plug over here.
Lets us keep the cooler on at night and stuff like that. If it's parked somewhere and the mix has to stay cold.
That's right.
So.
This is the radiator and condenser. The condenser up there is the back coils. You can see the back copper coils are small.
Yep. So there's 2 sets of coils right here. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. This back set is off of a 4-ton Amana heat pump that my dad used to have on his house, and he put in a new air conditioning system at your grandfather's.
Yeah.
And he threw this in the iron pile. And I looked at it and said, I think that'll work for my condenser. And so originally I had it sitting down on the floor here and screwed to the floor, and it just was too hard to walk around this. So I built this rig, put it all up here. So this is the housing off the Amana. This is the, it was 220 because it was on a heat pump, so I needed 110. So this is off of Larry Grant's furnace in his house. He changed out his furnace and he gave me the fan motor. So I converted it over to 110. This is the fan guard off of a Lennox HS8 air conditioner that was in the junk. And then the radiator, there's Larry Grant. I just said Larry Grant. There he is. So this radiator is a Carrier air conditioner, R12 Carrier air conditioner, that I used to wash and clean for a lady in Arkansas City when I worked with Larry Grant right there. And I told Larry I was looking for an old looking radiator type coil that I could make
Run coolant through.
to run my radiator through, and I said I'd like one that had some round fins on it. And he said, well, that one you used to service is sitting right out there in the junk pile. And I went out and looked, and this was it, and it was even full of R12. So I saved the R12, and then I had to modify it slightly because, as you can see, it used to have a manifold just like this.
Yep.
Right here. So these came out, went down, these came out and go up like they do today. This was one of the refrigerant lines, and the other refrigerant line was right there. So I just cut them off, and I made this tank out of a piece of copper pipe.
Little expansion tank.
The little expansion tank, and I went down to the radiator shop and bought a radiator neck and cap and put it on. And so the water pump is on the little Witte.
Yep.
I'm sorry, the little Continental. And the Continental pumps its hot water out like right here where it would go to a radiator. So the hot water going to the radiator comes down through this Witte, heats the cylinder on the Witte, comes back up through here and goes up to the top of the radiator, and then out of the bottom of the radiator it returns back. So that engine and water pump pumps water through the entire system. And then the Witte Diesel is this used to be a standby generator, and you can see the generator set right down here on the cast iron base, and this was the belts to run it, and the belt grooves to run the generator. Well, I took that Copeland compressor, used to be where the little Continental, I made these little mounts, and
this is the original Dairy Queen compressor, and of course we didn't mention the machine was obviously all electric originally, and it had two electric motors. One ran the compressor, one ran the machine.
One ran the auger, right?
Right.
And the auger now is ran by the little Continental.
Yep. And now the diesel runs the compressor, so it's like expanded out with engines.
That's right. So it's all. I got rid of the two horse electric motors, and we put this. Let's see, it's an 8 horsepower. You said? Yeah, it's 8 horsepower. 8 horse Witte. So this thing ran probably a 5 kilowatt generator, and this was made in Kansas City, Kansas.
Probably ran like 30 houses with 5 kilowatts back then.
Well, you wouldn't be able to stop it. These are this set of gauges were my dad's gauges he used in the 60s at Winfield Electric Company, which is long since gone. And I worked there about 20 years after he worked there, and I saw those gauges hanging on the wall, and I said, hey, what's the deal with those gauges? And he said, well, your dad used to use them. And I said, I'd like to have them. And he said, well, they're yours. So I used them for years in the refrigeration business when I was doing refrigeration. And then I needed a set of gauges, so I just made that little mount, hooked it up, and it tells me my head pressure and my suction pressure. So this little condenser right here.
This is all new.
We just added this a year ago. This condenser and compressor came out of that cooler, and this is our Beverage-Air milk cooler that came out of the high school lunchroom.
In Andover.
The original one was from Andover. This is a replacement, so it's all stainless. And it was too tall to fit under my cabinet, so I took the compressor out, so it sat down on the floor, and plus we had to bolt it down just so it could be transportable. So then, once I got it down, I cut all the lines and rerouted all the lines. So this is my sight glass, filter dryer, ran the lines up through the ceiling. I put a little oil trap right here. I mean, it probably wasn't necessary, but I just went ahead and put an oil trap in because if the velocity gets low, you won't take your oil back to your compressor. So it's trapped right down there, so it'll lift it up to here, and then it's trapped right here, so it lifts it up, and then the oil returns back over here. It must work because this thing's been running for a long time, and it hadn't burnt the compressor up. So this thing keeps our ice milk and ice cream. This is an ice cream. This is ice cream we're going to serve this time. It keeps that cold, and then oil gets pumped out with the refrigerant right here out of the compressor, and the oil comes up to this oil gas separator. So this has a float in it that floats on the oil level. When the oil level gets high enough, the oil is ejected through this little 1/4 inch line and comes back down here, goes through that sight glass, and is dumped back into the compressor. So that's it. There, just came on. That's got a thermostat in here that turns the power on and off.
For the compressor.
I think I'm still using the thermostat in the box.
Yeah.
And I just ran the cord back in the original thermostat and just extended the wire around here. I'm already forgetting what I did. Okay, so
Also, to regulate the temp on the barrel there, we have this electric solenoid and a thermostat, and there's another sight glass.
that's just a sight glass to show us when the hot gas is going through it. So this is a hot gas de-superheater.
Yeah.
So what happens is when it was running on electric motors, the electric motor would just turn the compressor on and off, just like it would turn your house on and off, or your refrigerator on and off, or in fact this refrigerator on and off.
Right.
So since this diesel never shuts off and runs continuously, it would freeze the ice cream into a solid block of ice.
Yep.
It would just totally, it would actually burn the belts off of it. So I had to figure out how to do that. So I added what's called a hot gas bypass. So this hot gas right here comes off the top of the condenser, so it doesn't turn into a liquid. And when it gets too cold, this solenoid opens and dumps hot gas in at the front of the evaporator, and it's called a de-superheater. And what it does is it de-superheats the gas, warms the barrel back up until the thermostat clicks back in, closes this off, and it goes back to refrigerate. So it just goes between heating and cooling, heating and cooling.
That's our thermostat for the barrel, our thermometer for the barrel right there. It's 85 degrees Fahrenheit right now. It runs around 10, and if you guys think about the barrel, it's just insulation and a coil wrapped down it like that.
That's right. The last part of the operation is there's a clutch. So this is the clutch for the auger to move ice cream out, and that you can see that
It's just an idler pulley that crushes the belts.
That come off my dad's New Holland hay baler, and he was junking the hay baler, so I torched that off of it and grabbed the mount blocks and everything that was mounting on it, brought it in here and made me a little adapter and bolted it in right there. This is the emergency brake off my dad's 1-ton Chevy step van.
Yeah, an old Grumman van, Chevy van.
Yeah, that's it. He was junking it out, so I took the emergency brake off and I used that for this. So it's nice because you can adjust the belt tension right here with this little adjuster. So now we're ready to clean this machine and assemble it and get ready to start making ice cream.
Got a baller new ignition on here with some chrome in it. And it's electronic now instead of the points, because every year when we'd start it up, you'd have to clean the points. So it really only runs once a year. Now it's pretty much always good to go. Here's a cooler view for you guys. This is basically Dairy Queen ice cream, but I think we're running 5% butterfat instead of 10, which is what Dairy Queen is. And there you go. Now it's clean, filled with mix, and up and running. Making ice cream. So if you want some, it's for sale for $1 a cup. Anyway, that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.watchjericho.com where you get cool shirts, not like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. And I will talk to you next time.